Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, the UFC 294 press conference took place this morning at about 6 a.m. I watched it then while I was live streaming, and then I've watched it again since, so that it's more fresh in my mind. I want to just give my thoughts and reaction to the thing in general. Now, I'm going to try and keep this brief because a lot of what I'm going to say, at least regarding the Volk and Islam side, I said yesterday in my media coverage, but a lot of that same stuff came up. So there's been a few new installments to what I'll touch on, but for the most part, it was basically what I talked about in my media day coverage. Now, I've written out just a few guideline notes, nothing in any particular order. I do apologize for that. It was basically what came to my mind first after watching it, and I'm just going to go over it as is. So let's get started, dude. Something that I noticed off rip. Now, Khamzat Chimaev is quiet in almost every single interview that he does. He's got a very low tone. His cadence is very slow, so it's very hard to actually hear him. But what's strange is that usually at about this time, he's cutting weight to 170 pounds, he's a lot louder. And I'm not saying that to be degrading or that means he's in bad shape or not in the right headspace or anything like that. But what I am saying is that it seems as though he's mellowed out a little bit over this last year. Now, maybe if he goes out there and, dominates Kamaru Usman or finishes him in spectacular fashion, we will get the old screaming Khamzat Chimaev. But as far as the press conference goes, which at press conferences we've seen him be quite rowdy in the past, he seems very quiet and is not wanting to really engage a whole lot in trash talk. And I think that, he hasn't came out, well, he kind of has came out and said this. I think that he's honestly grateful that Kamaru Usman stepped up and took this fight on short notice, because it was unbelievably badass. And of course, on Khamzat's side as well, to accept the fight with a new opponent. He really just wants to compete. Kamaru Usman gave him that chance because Paulo Costa pulled out, obviously, and I think that he's just trying to not be too much of a dick. Now, they had a few back and forth moments which were fun, regarding the iPhone and him, Usman being old and things like that, but for the most part, it was pretty respectful. Nothing overly disrespectful was said between the two of them. Usman had good responses to everything. Dude, I said this in my media day coverage. Typically, I find him cringe, and some of his responses, his one-liners, I find they fall flat. But when Khamzat Chimaev had brought up, you say you're the best in the world, but you can't be. You can't be, brother, because you lose your last two fights, brother. Usman said, yeah, and that's a lesson. He goes, I'm human, and that's a lesson that I'm going to teach you, or something like that. And it wasn't overly aggressive, but it was just a good little one-liner. Things like that. Most of the trash talk was done between Alexander Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev, which I will touch on a little bit. But before I do that, I want to touch on the Usman knee situation, okay? Because I understand him wanting to shut down any allegations because he doesn't want any excuses, right? And I can see my cat poking her head out of frame, so hopefully she doesn't just jump on my keyboard and end this video. She is messing with the curtains a little bit, though, which is kind of annoying, okay? But either way, dude. It seems as though he's not trying to preemptively make any excuses for himself, which I do appreciate. That's, it's not something Usman typically does, but on JRE, he's mentioned how his knees are trashed before this, okay? So it's not like it's anything new to us, right? We know that he's got bad knees, and what I noticed, I've watched that video a handful of times, trying to find a moment where is the silver bullet that it did, aside from him saying to Gaethje that it popped, aside from them ending the open workout faster, significantly faster than anybody else's, any of that. So aside from that, I try to find a frame where I can see it pop or anything like that, and I can't. But what I did notice was, and I don't know, somebody can tell me if I'm just in outer fucking space or what, dude, but the mats that they were working on, I'm used to mats in a kickboxing gym. They're pretty firm for the most part. They've got a little bit of give, but if you fall on them, it will hurt, okay? The mats that they were training on for their open workouts seem to have a ton of give to them. Every time Usman would put weight on one leg or the other, his foot would sink into the mat. And it was once I knew that he had said, oh, it popped, and then I was rewatching it, I thought, well, no wonder. Why are these mats so squishy? Do you know what I mean? That can't be good. You can get your foot caught up in that in kind of a way, and when you would go to pivot, it doesn't work or what have you. So I'm hoping that it's not overly bad and that this is just something that he's used to. I really don't want to see like a TJ Dillashaw, Aljamain Sterling type thing go out where he goes out there, his knee pops out immediately, he tries to tough through it because he's a badass, and it just doesn't go his way. Do you know what I mean? Like, I really hope that he's healthy enough to be competing on a somewhat, even playing field. Not that it's not going to be even due to skills and things like that, but it would really suck if he went out there and first kick of the fight, first takedown defense of the fight, or anything like that, his knee just blows. So I guess I'm not going to say that he's a liar, but it definitely seemed strange. He was very adamant that there's nothing wrong, but he's told us many of times in the past that his knees are trashed. He said to Justin Gaethje that it popped, and they got up immediately after and walked out, and their open workout was much faster than anybody else's. So hopefully it's not too bad. Now, Volk and Islam, going back and forth quite a bit about the whole Australia thing, and this is what I'm talking about. I touched upon in my media day coverage, is that Islam Makhachev is really acting as though he lost in Australia, and he's got all these excuses for it, which I can understand, going in with the mindset that maybe you're not happy with your performance, and that you want to be able to do better. But what I don't understand is all of the excuses for it. Like, somebody mentioned in my comment sections that it might actually help him if he looks at that fight as a loss, which I can totally get. But then to make all of the excuses on behalf of it is what bothers me. And he keeps doing this thing, man. And to be fair, a lot of fighters do this, so this isn't just me shitting on Islam Makhachev, but he is the guy fighting in the main event, and he is the one doing it at this moment, so it's relevant, okay? He keeps saying there were many things leading up to that fight regarding the one in Australia. And then he refuses to talk about them or to enlighten anybody. And Volk actually asked him, he said, enlighten me, tell us what happened, open up. And Islam won't do it. And to me, that really seems like a way to make an excuse without the appearance of making an excuse. You can just say a very broad, vague line that there were a bunch of things that happened, and then when you're asked to elaborate on them, you say no, because you don't want to give any excuses. In and of itself, you're making an excuse by even bringing up the fact that there were many things. What he seems to be focusing on the most, which is insane to me, dude, because I gave pretty good reasons as to why I thought this was crazy yesterday. First of all, weigh-ins used to take place later in the day throughout literally the majority of the UFC, and it's ever since its existence. They took place later in the day. They had less hydration time. The new hydration time is that. Relatively new, maybe the last 5 years. I can't remember the exact event where they changed it, but I remember a bunch of fighters being upset about it because they wanted more time to cut weight rather than to rehydrate, because rehydrating is the easy part, okay? This is what he's focusing on the most, though, is the hydration time allowed to him in Australia. And thankfully, even a reporter brought this up to Volk, and Volk shut that shit down incredibly, in one of the best ways he possibly could. No swearing, no getting angry, no none of that. He said, what, 30 some odd hours isn't enough for you? He goes, you're hinging everything on your weight. He's like, I'm betting on my skills and I don't need to worry about my weight. Which is true, man, because every time he complains about the rehydration period, he's essentially acting like he's admitting that he's a weight bully, dude. And I don't get it. 5 a.m. This was Islam Makhachev's words. Weigh-ins were at 5 a.m. in Australia. That's what he said, at least, okay? The main card started at 11 a.m. the next day. They don't fight until the end of that main card. So we're looking at like 12:30, 1 p.m., right? That's over 31, 32, 33 hours we're looking at. So he's really like, it's wild to me, man. How is that not enough time? Do you know what I mean? I get that in other places, you might get a little bit more time. 31 hours, 32 hours should be more than enough time to rehydrate your body. And it was honestly more than what they used to get. So either way, he really is like, everything is hinging on that excuse. And it's kind of strange, but he also sounds right now, and look, it's going to be to his benefit that he gets a little bit more rehydration time, so it's not the end of the world, but he sounds like the weight cut might be taking a bit of a toll on him already, right? And we're Thursday. I don't know what time the weigh-ins are, but he's kind of trailing off at the end of sentences quite often. Like, it sounds exhausting for him to complete a sentence. And I know that he kind of talks like that regularly, but it seems as though he's getting tired by the time he gets to the end of the sentences. It's just not a great look. I don't know if somebody knows what time the weigh-ins are. Actually, can you let me know? Because if they're after 5 a.m. tomorrow, then I don't know what the fuck he's been talking about this whole time. Okay. Either way, he kept trying to say Volk's just here for money. Tried to get him to disclose his purse. Okay, which I thought was very strange. Why should he? How has he not earned a bit of a pay bump right now, when if it wasn't an Islam Makhachev, dude, he kept telling Volk to say thank you, that he could have picked to fight anybody. You really couldn't have, though. You really couldn't have. He mentioned Dustin Poirier and he mentioned Mateusz Gamrot, okay? Dustin Poirier is coming off of a head kick KO loss against Justin Gaethje, okay? He's coming off of a brutal knockout. How are you... I'm sorry. Everybody would shit on that fight if that's the fight that got made. And then Mateusz Gamrot just got a fluke win because Rafael Fiziev hurt himself in their fight. And that's his highest ranked win. He tried to get into the top 5 or the top, the upper echelons when he fought Beneil Dariush, and he got worked. Okay, so you really couldn't have made either of those fights. And also, one of the reporters asked him if, that him being Islam Makhachev, if he was going to let Bilal Muhammad have a title shot before he himself challenges for the welterweight title. And he flat out said, you're going to have to ask this guy because I don't make the decisions. So no, Islam Makhachev, you could not have picked to fight Dustin Poirier. You could not have picked to fight Mateusz Gamrot. They were probably the backup scenarios in case Volkanovski said no. So you're not the one calling the shots here. He continuously was telling Volk to say thank you. When, if I was Islam Makhachev, like Khamzat Chimaev towards Usman, I would be thanking him. He would not have gotten to compete if Alexander Volkanovski was not willing to fly his ass to fucking Abu Dhabi on 11 days notice. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, bro, get real. How about you thank him, motherfucker? You know what I mean? And I know that some of it's just trash talk, but Islam on a number of occasions did appear that he was actually getting bothered by some of the things that Alexander Volkanovski was saying, some of the comebacks that Volk had. And I'm going to say this, dude, I was annoyed at Volk's fucking I'm in my prime line because fuck prime hydration, and fuck him for that cringy line that he stole from Cringy Izzy, okay? So I don't like that, but it is what it is. Either way, moving on. The money thing I don't understand, bro. Dude, India... Poor India, bro, getting caught in the crossfire, just catching strays wherever they go, apparently. I don't understand it. Somebody tried to explain it to me in chat, and I've already forgotten, but it is what it is, dude. Hopefully, that reporter makes it out of there, okay? Because he kind of put a target on his back, to say the least. People were not happy with his question. He was getting booed the entire time, and then Dana White said, what the fuck? Why is everybody shitting on India? And then they continued to boo Dana White, which was funny. Something that I can't stand, man, and I'm gonna bring it up here because why not? Tourism questions are fucking cringe. Bro, I can't believe I didn't say this earlier. Why the fuck does Oscar Willis get so much goddamn time at these events now? I don't understand it. He's apparently the new John Morgan, which strange to me, what is strange to me is that he's like a newer guy on the scene, with a newer publication as far as MMA goes. The Mac Life's not brand new, okay? That's not what I'm saying. But MMA Junkie and John Morgan, who, as fat as he is, hustled his ass off to get to events early every fucking time. That was why it was literally decided amongst the other reporters that he got the first question always. That's why it was always Dana White would say, John Morgan, where are you? Now, and maybe he's not there. Why does Oscar Willis get next? And why does he get 12 fucking minutes to ask as many questions as humanly possible? He's a muppet. I don't like him. And he's annoying. And it is what it is. But either way, the tourism questions drive me crazy. And I'm not just saying this because it's Abu Dhabi. I could give a fuck less where it is. I said this the first time I actually ever brought this up in a video was in my town of birth. Okay? Vancouver, British Columbia. It's so fucking cringe, especially at least in those instances, no, not at least. It was at media day that they got asked. I was going to say at least it was at the post-fight press conference. It wasn't, dude. Hey, don't fucking ask them about this shit, bro. And I get it that they probably have it like in contract, perhaps. But what was absolutely hilarious and made me happy that this guy did ask that question, okay, was that all four of the guys in the co-main and the main event, and Dana White himself, are all dipping the fuck out. Somebody was staying till Monday, and that was the latest they were staying. So it was so funny to have this guy be like, oh, what are your fighters gonna get up to? Do you guys have a basically itinerary or whatever the fuck? Do you guys have anything scheduled? All this shit. And they're like, Dana White goes, I'm going home. I got shit to do. What about you guys? He starts trying to get Hamzat. Hamzat's like, home, brada. And then they ask Islam, home, Volk, home. Usman's like, I'm going home. Nobody it was funny, man, because I can't stand when these guys ask these tourism questions. Like, we're here to talk about the fights. You just wasted a whole ass 2 minutes asking about this shit. Do you know what I mean? Dana White, he defended Paulo Costa, which I've been kind of echoing the same sentiment on my live streams in the morning leading up to this, is that Paulo Costa is the little boy who cried wolf. And it's unfortunate that this time, after so many times before, is like an actual legitimate excuse. His staph infection was one of the most disgusting staph infections I've ever seen. He had a massive crater in his elbow that you could see. The skin around his elbow was all discolored and disgusting. Like, unironically could have fucking died if he didn't get this shit treated. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was that bad. Especially because, you know, all it takes is for the infection to get to your... Either way. Dana White kept trying to defend him, and he was getting booed pretty bad too. Hamzat had a funny moment where he said, he shit his pants, brah. He run home, he shit his pants. Fuck this guy. Don't ask question about this guy, brah. Hamzat Chimaev might be on all the Xanax in the world or some shit. I don't know how he gets his voice that low. It's absolutely impressive. Okay, either way. Now, the face-offs. For me, look, we've seen Islam and Volk face off before. Both look confident, both kind of smirking at each other. It really does seem as though they're both sick of one another. Like, they just want to get in there and beat the fuck out of each other. And I think that something that makes this fight extra interesting is that they both keep reiterating, like, I gave him too much respect. I gave him too much respect. I'm going in there for the kill. I'm going in there for the kill. I'm going to try and finish him the whole fucking time. I feel like they're annoyed, right? Because they had such a close competitive fight that to the point where it might almost be frustrating. Do you know what I mean? When you, Volkanovski, underestimated Islam Makhachev's striking to the point where there's actually instances in that fight where he got you with good shots, where he got the better on the feet in some of the exchanges, and then vice versa. Islam Makhachev with Volkanovski in terms of the grappling, where he wasn't able to do what he usually does. He isn't able to just mount him and smash him. He's not able to just advance position when he pleases, get a submission when he pleases. Do you know what I mean? I feel like it's almost frustrating. You know, like, fuck, I'm going to have to go in there and it's going to be hard. And I want to finish him. So they do seem like they're a little bit sick of one another. As I said, Volk seemed to be getting under Islam's skin a little bit there. Some of the back and forths. It's going to be interesting. That's all fine and dandy. The most interesting part about either one of those face-offs for me, though, was when Usman and Hamzat Chimaev squared off against one another. The reason being, first of all, Usman's shirt. What are you doing, dude? Okay, this isn't a BDSM fucking event. You're about to fight, but either way. Kamaru Usman is enormous. And I know that he doesn't really look bigger than Hamzat Chimaev. But it's amazing what lighting, angles, and a good pump can do, okay? Because we've seen Hamzat Chimaev in this journey to middleweight looking fucking huge, shredded, unbelievable, all of it, right? He's been looking like a beast in all of the videos that get put on Instagram and all that. Also, relativity. When he's standing next to a guy like a Jalen Turner, who may be 6'3", but weighs in at 155 pounds, Hamzat looks like a fucking fridge, bro, okay? When he's standing next to Usman, Usman looks like the more fridge-like guy. He looks like the more filled-out dude. And I know they're roughly at the same stage in their weight cut, too. Usman looks big. And I wasn't expecting him to look that big next to Hamzat Chimaev. Chimaev's a little bit taller than him. Usman's got a reach advantage, but that's neither here nor there. I just thought that because Khamzat Chimaev's been taking the time to kind of bulk up a bit, to get to 185, to be comfortable in his new weight that he's going to be, rehydrating to, and all this shit, and he's known that he's, with the intent of moving up for almost a year, or maybe even over a year. Whereas Kamaru Usman was undecided on what he was going to do. And he was kind of in a state of limbo. And then to see him show up and look fucking just as big as Khamzat Chimaev, if not more filled out, was interesting to say the least. I think that this fight is going to be a lot more competitive. Of course, if Usman's knee is injured, then probably not so much. But I feel like this fight could potentially be a lot more competitive than people are giving it credit for, than the betting line's giving it credit for. And I'm fucking hyped, dude. I will stream tomorrow morning, because I promised somebody that I would do it every single morning until the event, and then I'm going to live stream a fight companion for the event. So if you're interested, pardon me, what the fuck, I don't know why I said it like that, dude. I usually start at about 6 a.m. in the morning, so see you there. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe. I will see you at the next video. Bye-bye.